成功。イズイの頭にそれを作ってきました。故障した後に、それはここで混乱することを打ている。見てみましょう。
For the first time on the show, I have a viewer-submitted game to review. Yay! Sweet! So, I'm not gonna waste your time. Let's see what we got here. Okay, Yees. I have no idea what this game is, let alone its soundtrack, so, to Wikipedia! Okay, let's see. So, I have the SNES version of this game. It looks like this is a port of the original game, which was made for the NEC PC. And there are versions for the MSX2, the Sharp X68000, the TurboGrafx CD, and the Sega Genesis. This game has been on everything from that era. I honestly haven't even heard of some of those consoles. Whoa. Before you flog me for my ignorance, let me explain something about my childhood. Way back when I was a kid, the NES was my first console. I didn't get to play it too often, mostly because my mom wouldn't let me play it. She would always tell me to go outside and get some fresh air. Then I got the Super Nintendo for my birthday, and I was so excited. Now, unfortunately, no one else in my neighborhood really played video games, so the Super Nintendo and the Nintendo were the only consoles I knew existed up until the N64 era. It was many years later that I actually discovered the existence of all these other consoles that Yeez was made on. But enough about me. What about the game? Whoa! I just turned this game on, and it's already hitting me with this crazy tune. Go on, Yeez. You have my attention. From there are a few tunes that kind of repeat themselves. But that doesn't speak for the whole soundtrack, just the opening part. And it irks me. A bit. I entered the first dungeon with no idea what to expect. I just started slashing away at everything in there before quickly learning that I die very easily. And running in headfirst is not a good idea. Actually, I didn't have a sword the first time I ran in here because I didn't buy one, so I died and I died and I died and I died and I died, but let's ignore that. So what does that have to do with the soundtrack, you ask? Well, when you get into the dungeon, the music is really intense. But because you start off so vulnerable, you're forced to play extra cautious. The super intense music and the very slow dungeon crawl do not mix well. I'm really not sure how I feel about this. It's a game dynamic that I haven't heard in many video games, if at all, but it feels like it was more done on accident than on purpose. That and almost every song I've heard has a relatively quick beat. Even the slower songs have a pretty high tempo. Again, I'm not sure how I feel about this, so maybe... But then again... Oh, but there is, I'm not too sure about it. Actually, I think it's alright. I mentioned at the beginning of this video that Ys was made for a variety of different consoles. I've also mentioned in previous videos that the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis, for example, have totally different sound qualities. So, the same game, made for different consoles, is going to sound totally different. Well, Ys is no exception. I think that's pretty sweet. It's the same song, but it's on all different consoles, so it's got totally different sound qualities and sounds totally different. And is it just me, or does the TurboGrafx one sound a lot like Dreamcast? Either that, or I'm just a Dreamcast fanboy and I'm totally nuts. So, yeah. When it comes to how much I've enjoyed this soundtrack, I'd say I'd need to take this with a grain of salt. The soundtrack is pretty sweet, and it's some of the better stuff you'll hear on the Super Nintendo. But being on the Super Nintendo, it does show its age a bit. The soundtrack as a whole sort of sounds like something I'd hear in an anime, and considering the obvious anime style of the game, that makes a whole lot of sense. After grinding away at this game for hours, I've found myself humming a few of these songs, so they're pretty memorable. And that's when I figured that Ys was oh, man. Wait a minute. I've played this game before. I used to play this game all the time when I was a kid. What's going on with my head?